The meta of tomorrow, Flundereeze. What's going on, guys? Pegasus from the Wise Guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, Flundereeze is going to be a meta deck. I'm telling you that now before we even get into whether it's going to be the meta of tomorrow. Of course it is, but let's get into the specifics of the cards and then go from there. Flundereeze meets Snow Owl, X Snow Owl, as you guys have seen it online already, and Impin are both really powerful cards, but we also got to talk about some of the little weenie cards up first as well, some of the level ones. The level one that we first have to talk about is meets Robina, which is, it specifically adds one level 4 or lower wing beast from your deck to your hand, and then allows you to extra normal summon, as well as banish itself, as well as recur itself once a monster is tributed. As well as Eaglin, Flundereeze X Eaglin. It specifically adds one level 7 or higher wing beast monster as well, while also being the extra normal summon each and every one of these cards pretty much will have. As far as the other two cards that we of course alluded to before, we have Flundereeze X Stritch, Ostrich, and then Toucan, which is really cool as far as being wing beast. One, being able to banish a card out of the grave to make room for Shifter, I guess. I just kind of was form fitted for that. But as far as Impin, the big penguin specifically, when he's tribute summon, adds a spell or trap with Flundereeze in its name, of course, and then obviously gives you the effect to a normal summon as well. Flundereeze meets Snow Owl, obviously Snow Owl, you know, I figure you can figure that out. Pretty much boils down to being able to do piercing damage and do some other stuff as well. Now, when getting into the specifics of some of these cards, I think that understanding pretty much where you're coming from as far as breaking down the deck, you pretty much start with Robina or Eaglin each and every time. Being able to play the deck correctly is really pertinent upon whether you're going to do that or not. And once you do that, it's pretty much self-explanatory from there. The deck is very easy to play. It's not a deck that's very difficult to play in any way, shape, or form. But when you're looking into each and every one of these cards, you have to pick which option you're going to go into once you tribute summon for the Emperor Penguin. Now, if you do pick the counter trap, that would go specifically against a deck where they specifically rely on special summoning. Now, obviously, the penguin itself pretty much takes away the ability for them to drop link monsters onto the board to be able to deal with the penguins. He's a big giant majesty fiend pretty much, and the counter trap can back that up and take away any special summoning that could possibly get over it. So that's a really powerful setup. The other powerful setup is being able to go into the normal trap card, which is City of Dreams, and then being able to Book of Eclipse your opponent and also give you an immediate normal summon on your opponent's turn, which is really powerful because you can pretty much go into the same kind of plays and pretty much disorient your opponent, just like playing side frames on what turn it even is. Obviously, when you do normal summon on your opponent's turn, you have interruptions such as Smorg, such as Apex Avian, it's not listed here, such as the Snow Owl, and then obviously with some of the other cards. As far as opening up in a different way, you're not always going to start off with Robina, and you don't really have to. I'm just showing that you can. It's really self-explanatory, but each and every time that you tribute over the top of these cards, they have a ridiculous amount of recovery, and being able to grab the field spell is really important to some of your plays, especially if you're going the optional route of pretty much playing a card like Raska, whatever the hell the thing's name is. It's an Earthbound Immortal, which just hasn't been seen in years. But the wing beast that allows you to take cards out of your opponent's hand, yes, it can go inside of this deck, and being able to take away from your opponent maybe at the start of the turn. I don't know if it's going to be super duper amazing, but maybe hand ripping for 3 and then having a Book of Eclipse inside of your graveyard is something that you may want to think about as well. And obviously you would pop some of the other cards that are on your field that are under your control. In this last combo, I just wanted to show what happens when you have Dimensional Shifter. Basically, having Dimensional Shifter is going to lock out a lot of decks, but there definitely is something to be said about what if you don't open it. Obviously, you're not going to open Shifter all the time because that's just math. However, this deck can specifically remove cards out of the graveyard to be able to play under Shifter almost at any time, at least early. Now, I wouldn't say middle of the game to late game. Of course not, because, well, you're just going to have stuff in the graveyard at some point. And this deck really leans heavily on the opening turns, because I just feel like if you can lock your opponent out from being able to play, whether that's playing the floodgates or that's cracking your opponent with Shifter, they're just not going to be able to play like that anyway. But anyways, In this specific combo, this is just alluding that this is how you can get a card out of your graveyard and then be able to go from there. Being able to add the ostrich, which is why you would have to play the ostrich, it banishes the card out of your graveyard that is in your graveyard if you've only used one. I wouldn't use terraforming in this deck just because it's awful. It's just going to be too much to play around. I would just play 3 of the field spell, but in case you have a duality that you already went into, an extravagance you already went into, ostrich is how you clear your graveyard out. And then being able to do that, your card specifically will go all the way out of play. And then thus, let's not forget, you can chain block your big Emperor Penguin. So guys, it's a lot going on, but let's boil it down to the simple basics. Pretty much, guys, this deck can chain block you to sleep with the smaller ones, and being able to make all of the tribute summon ones really powerful. Shout out to this random deck. I just wanted to give like a starter deck list, but as far as like showing all of the options, it's just so much going on inside of this deck, but it's so little going on inside of the deck because it's really straightforward. Anyways, with this deck list, I've used 3 Ash Blossoms. I'm using Smorg in the main deck, but obviously whatever the meta will be at the time of its release, which is, I forget the name of the set, it'll be listed obviously somewhere in here. But Smorg mixed with some of the stuff like Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter, I feel like it's mandatory in this deck. It fits this deck like a glove. It's really exceptional what it can do inside of this deck, because even when you go second, you're going to go first, and even when you go first, you're going to go second. This deck it's really a mindfuck, to be honest. 2 Emperor Penguin, I feel like you have to play at least 2. You know, something will always happen to 1, so I feel like that's when you should play 2. But you don't want to keep drawing gigantic bricks, just like any other understanding of any other deck. But this card is a Majesty's Fiend on legs. Even bigger legs, because it's a big ass Emperor Penguin, which is just badass in and of itself. Rabina is obviously the setup card, like I said before. And then the other card, Snow Owl Snarl, helps you to have another wave of a Book of Eclipse besides just the trap card, which is really interesting. Toucan. You can obviously grab cards back from out of the banish pile, which helps you to recur some more. And then Eaglin helps you to search the big tribute monsters that this deck specifically will need to be able to interrupt your opponent, whether that be the Mega Raiza, which I'll get to in a second, whether that be the Samorg, whether that be any of these cards, the Earthbound Immortals, a lot of this stuff. Ostrich, again, is the card that can help you play around specific early game scenarios, such as having a duality or extravagance in the graveyard and drawing into a shifter. I would play this card specifically just for that, but you don't absolutely have to. I just feel like it would definitely be a good idea. But that card works specifically in tandem with the Dimensional Shifter to be able to stop your opponent from being able to play, at least when you go first, should you open it. The Mega Raiza, as I said before, Mega Raiza is going to be a really important interruption, and that's why it's been bought out already. Sorry guys if you didn't already know or see this video. Dimensional Fissure, and then 2 of the field spell. The field spell, again, you cannot play terraforming. If you play terraforming, go ahead and kick yourself in the groin, because it's not going to land like you want it to. I'm just telling you that now because, well, you know, the ostrich thing, like I said before. This card, Flundereeze of the Unknown Wind, will easily go into tribute summon decks and some other decks with interesting ideas, because it's really just another mausoleum. And obviously you got consistency cards, and then a bunch of the wave trap cards that are just really powerful trap tricks targets, like Dogmatica Punishment and Permanence, and the main deck, City of Dreams. I really feel like you don't need Trap Trick. It's just me messing around with something. I would probably cut the Trap Trick and just play the 40 straight up. But this card specifically giving you the City of Dreams, giving you the ability to tribute on your opponent's turn, is just so stupid. But it's going to be matchup specific as to which one exactly that you want your opponent to have. The counter trap giving your opponent 3 normal summons will not matter. 1, because the Penguin is probably going to be sitting on the field most of the time, and it'll be untouchable almost. And then 2, a whole bunch of normal summons in a deck like, I don't know, Drytron, that doesn't mean anything. So if you just take away that, then you pretty much take away everything, don't you? Right. And then obviously you got Macrocosmos. Macrocosmos is self-explanatory. In a side deck, it's just relentless amounts of options. You can main deck DD Crow because, yes, it's a level 1 wing beast, so you obviously can add it off of the Robin. In case you do that on their turn, then you have the DD Crow into your hand. Obviously, you got the Earthbound Immortal and the Apex Avian. Again, if you want to swap it out for the Samorg, there you go with that. Domain, obviously, just because you don't have to play an extra deck version of this deck, so obviously you'd make some clear cuts. The Gold Sark is really, really interesting. It's not necessary, but yes, the way that they can all loop themselves, Gold Sark is a definite option that is very similar to Thunder Dragon and how it took advantage of it. The Wing Requital, which will be a new card at the same time, is going to be really, really powerful. As well as Featherstorm, I feel like will definitely be an option. And Losing Turn will definitely be an option. Monarch's Erupt will definitely be an option. It's just, what are you going to want to do? What will the meta be? Will there be a lot of mirror matches? Will there be a lot of different decks within the meta? Will Drytron still be around? There's so much to talk about. Tri-Brigade, etc., etc. If there's still so much going on with certain decks, then, you know, a lot of these decks are just going to get clapped by this deck. I'm just being honest. This is the new Domain Monarchs. This is the new True Draco. This is the newest version of the deck that is just not going to let your opponent play. It's the new Subterror. It goes along those lines. Now, again, guys, having an emptiness and the chain blocking and all the other floodgates and recovery and all that stuff, guys, all I can say is that the defense and the consistency and the recovery are the strong points of this deck, which every control deck should have. And they're just really self-explanatory, really easy to play. And I hope you're ready for it, because if you hated True Draco and Monarch, you're going to hate this deck too. Pegasus from the Wise Guys, signing out. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm out. YG baby, we're out of here.